Hello, welcome to the House of Wellness. Always brilliant to be standing alongside the House of Wellness team. Joe Stanley, Jacqui Felgate, Dr. Nick Carr.
Hi,
Good
Daz.
to see you guys.
Oh, and here we go again with our regular dose of stress relief, because isn't that what we're all chasing? Just a calm mind, no matter what life throws at us.
And a great way to give yourself a calm mind, Joe, is to come somewhere like here at the Royal Botanic Gardens in Cranbourne, or you could try a more artistic option. It's called doodling.
Now, you know, I'm a terrible artist, but I love doodling, and it's one of the things I miss about landlines. Remember, you used to be attached to the cord, and you just kind of doodle away while chatting to your girlfriends. I love that.
Well, it's interesting, Joe, because it's been called open eye meditation, because the doodling allows the mind just to relax and it triggers that relaxation response. It's lovely.
So it's a little different to adult colouring. A few years ago, there was that craze where all adults were buying these colouring books. This one is more free-form. You don't have to worry about staying in between the lines.
I am big on staying in the lines, to be honest with you.
I bet you are.
That really gets me, yeah. Which brings us to our next topic, and it is red hot, literally. That is vaping, which seems to be a bit out of control.
Well, there's a major crackdown, not just here, but also overseas. It's the biggest reform in terms of nicotine laws in a decade, and it will mean that the cost of cigarettes rises exponentially.
Yeah, and it's the end to those fun flavoured vapes, which is really, really great because, you know, 1 in 6 teens have tried vaping, which is really concerning.
Yeah, not just that, Joe, but new research released by the Cancer Council has shown a 3-fold rise in smoking in 14 to 17-year-olds in just the last 4 years. So it's excellent that pretty soon you'll only be able to get a nicotine vape on prescription for a pharmacist, and they're banning imports of every kind of vape, not just the nicotine ones, unless it's from a pharmacist. And that's been a big loophole up till now, so it's a really great change.
And Nick, that strict new legislation is aimed at stopping vaping getting way out of control, and you can hear from those numbers that it is a real problem. And the Cancer Council say that can't come soon enough.
The biggest take-up of vaping that we've seen in Australia has been with young people, and particularly those aged under 30. And of course, it's really worrying when you see children as young as 12 calling our quitline because they're experiencing all of the symptoms of nicotine addiction thanks to these products. Large numbers of young people in particular take up vaping. And when you've got flavours like fairy floss and chocolate milk, it's really clear who these products are aimed at. They have a very high level of nicotine typically in them, and there's almost no limit on the amount of nicotine that can be consumed with these products. So there's no way for people to have any sense of how much nicotine they're consuming, but also how many of the other chemicals they are absorbing into their lungs. What we find in these products are the same ingredients that we'll find in nail polish remover, paint thinner, insecticides. This is information that people deserve to know. We want to make sure that we get that out there. These initiatives that have been announced by the federal government will help in terms of building that level of knowledge, but we're going to need to sustain the types of education campaigns that we've seen with tobacco. The model that's been proposed, whereby people can access them only on prescription, will actually give us a great boost in terms of controlling that illegal market. That's the sort of approach that we need to be taking to make sure that these products are only used under the supervision of healthcare professionals. So if we can be doing everything that we can to have good communication campaigns in place that talk about the harms, bans on using flavours that appeal for children, that will make the job of teachers and parents much easier. This really is a public health emergency. I don't want to be sitting here in years to come when the long-term health consequences of these addictive products with 200 chemicals are discovered. It's going to be too late then to reverse the damage. We need to take those steps now and make sure that we're protecting the health of future generations.
E-cigarettes might seem innocent and appealing, but the truth is, many e-cigarettes contain poisonous chemicals, such as those in biofuel, paint thinner, and bug killer. In fact, more than 200 chemicals have been detected in e-liquids. It's time to see through the haze. Get the facts on vaping.
Well, as a parent to quite a few teens, the whole vaping scene is seriously out of control. But I don't know about you guys, but I've found the more that you try and tell your kids to not do something, often the worse it gets. And the more you lecture, the more counterproductive for me.
Yes, well, the best advice for parents of teens is to listen, not talk, which is easier said than done. But it's about creating a safe environment in which the kids talk, no judgment.
And one of the ways to do that, Joe, is to have the conversation when you're out for a walk or you're driving the car, or even if you can get them to do it, doing the washing up, anything where you don't have to look at each other. And if you do find a vape, try and stay calm, don't blow your top. And if you do confiscate it, tell them it's for their health, not for any other reason.
And then when you force your kids in one particular direction, and it just encourages them to rebel the other way. For mine, I loved sport growing up, but you didn't want to overlay any of that onto your kids. I think that just adds more pressure to them. They've got to find their own passions and hopefully support that.
What I've noticed with my kids is they've got a big age gap, and my younger one does sport. She just enjoys it. It's a big game. But my older one's just turned 11 and she's starting to get a little more competitive.
Oh, really?
I wonder where she gets that from.
Can't say.
Well, you know what? Not all kids are win at all costs, but that doesn't mean they can't enjoy sport.
So sport, the way we've delivered it, hasn't changed in decades, and we've seen this drop off for decades as well, but we haven't done anything about it. We're losing 50% of sport participants at 15 to 19. We looked at the reasons why they play and why they drop out. It's school, it's education, it's work, it's social life, it's pre-season training, train twice a week and game day, and many just don't want that commitment and maybe not as good at sport. Sport in its nature is that you're trying to score more points, but that's not the reason why most children play. They want to play with their friends, they want to have fun, they want to develop some skills and play the game in a more flexible manner. So it might be football or netball just done differently to suit their needs. It might be skateboarding for young girls, that we have a time and a place that's just for them and we have some coaching and some equipment available. But it's up to them to decide how they want to play the game. Sport sometimes is not that inclusive. The best get more game time. Those that aren't as good get benched until the last couple of minutes. So I do want to look at those groups of individuals that aren't normally have opportunity to play sport. And often that is young girls, but also people that might not have the finances to afford community sport. There's many ways we can minimise the costs. You don't need home and away shorts. You can only wear one pair. And we can repurpose equipment and uniforms and make it much cheaper for families to play. I'd like to have more children and youth involved in organised sport, just in a different way, a way that suits them and the way that they want to play, because the health benefits, mental, social and physical health benefits are really important. That they're connected to others within their communities is really important for their health and well-being.
Well, it's brilliant to see the sporting community becoming more inclusive, which we know is a really positive thing. And likewise with the play community, who are generally picking up the baton as well, particularly the world of Lego.
Yes, I love this. They've just introduced a gender-neutral range of toys, unlike your traditional toys that are targeted towards just boys or girls. I love this.
Yes, there are now Lego Pegasus horses, robots and crocodile cars designed to appeal to all genders. But I find largely when you go to the toy shop, there's the pink for the girls and the blue for the boys still.
Yeah, and the weapons for the boys and the little dolls for the girls. And somehow, the grandparents are getting a lot of the blame, because it's actually often the older generation who stick to those stereotypes about which toys to buy.
Can be hard to adapt, Nick, as we get older for a lot of us.
Don't look at me like that.
Well, I wasn't quite pointing the finger at you, but our continual celebration of all things community and what makes people happy continues next on the House of Wellness. We catch up with a Good Samaritan who's encouraging people to get on their bike, up next on the House of Wellness.
Dr. Nick, I know you love your cycling. In fact, you rode here today.
Yes, well, for me, it's really a practical thing, Jack, because, what would I rather do? Sit in a car, get frustrated with the traffic, or get out on the bike, bit of fresh air, some exercise? I absolutely love that. And there's that fabulous community of cyclists, and we keep the cafes busy every weekend morning.
Well, you're not alone. 2 to 3 million Australians get on their bike every single day.
Yeah, which is music to my ears, Jack, because it's such good aerobic exercise, and pretty much anyone can do it, even if you've got a dodgy knee like I have.
All you need is a bike, but of course not everyone has one, and that's where an incredible group of volunteers from Melbourne's inner north are coming to the rescue.
WeCycle's a small association. We're based in the inner north of Melbourne, and we receive second-hand bicycles, we fix them up, and we give them to people in need from across the community, and including asylum seekers, refugees, and generally people who need a bike.
Simon Batterbury has always had a keen interest in bicycles and their place in urban communities.
Get some new grips, and we'll also get some cloth and clean that off first.
Now he heads up a team of volunteers who give discarded bikes a second life.
So bikes are used for a variety of purposes, particularly going to English classes initially, for new arrivals, going to school, going shopping. We have somebody that travels 25 kilometres a day just to get to his place of work.
WeCycle gives away around 200 bikes a year, and that doesn't even scratch the surface.
That's not actually meeting demand for bicycles. We have a long list of clients wishing to receive them.
Just give that a kick. Happy days.
Alrighty.
Every Saturday, the Northcote Workshop in Melbourne is full of bike revivalists. Their skills learned on the job.
I knew very little. I knew how to fix a puncture, change tyres, a few very basic things, but part of what we do is trying to upskill volunteers.
Just came here doing one of Darabin's free bike check sessions. Brought one of my bikes in and found I basically learned a little bit more what WeCycle does, you know, helping repurpose bikes for refugees and people in need. So from then on, I thought, you know, it'd be a good chance for me to give back to community.
I'm going to back that off to about half of what I did.
2 months ago, I came here and they gave me a bike. Then I thought it would be so good that I come here and do some volunteering job to fix bike for refugees. Yeah.
It's really satisfying to see a little kid just break out in a big smile. They've never owned a bike and they're excited. So, yeah, on a lot of levels, it's a really satisfying experience for me.
There's a wide range of reactions I get when I deliver bikes. I mean, it's always great when you get the pure joy. So I'm going to do a full turn.
But it's not just about giving the bikes to those in need. This group of recyclers have become a tight-knit community.
Over the past 5 years, I think I could say some of my best friends are here at WeCycle.
In terms of social life, it is very important. I've met a lot of people here, and you met people from different walks of life.
We're a social organisation, but we're also face-to-face, and I think that's important in today's world, to maintain those contacts. You can't fix a bike online.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Another happy customer.
Hey Joe, I generally love my bike riding, and there is opportunities everywhere, including riding on pathways like behind us or out on the road, along the coast. It's an outdoor activity that has something for everyone.
Yeah, it's awesome, and you might see some beautiful wildlife. There's so much of it here. There's wallabies and wombats and the nationally endangered southern brown bandicoot, which is lucky enough to call these gardens home. And
plenty of opportunities to see that native wildlife here with the 6-kilometre bike track that is part of the Royal Botanic Gardens here in Cranbourne. It is a stunning setting.
Oh, it's amazing. There's koalas too, and these are the lucky ones here in this garden because with bushfires and road deaths and, of course, chlamydia, we know that koalas' numbers are low.
Chlamydia, disturbingly, is a real issue for koalas, and some scientists in New South Wales have vaccinated their first batch of koalas successfully against chlamydia and released them back into the wild.
Which is no mean feat, given how high they are up in the trees. But you've got to say you hope that with that vaccination, that fertility rates increase and numbers are growing.
They are a beautiful animal, the koala, unique to us here in Australia. Up next on the House of Wellness, our own Luke Hines gets his second masterclass in breathing. Joe, we're about to get very invigorated here on the House of Wellness. That's up next.
Every weekday morning, thousands of Aussie families are doing this. Come on, boys. The hectic scramble out the door, the school and daycare drop-off, and if you work, the mad dash to the office. It's all part of the deal. But if you're time poor and don't have enough hours in your day to exercise and spend quality time with your baby, there is a way you can do both.
right, girls, are you ready to do a workout? So we're going to pop babies down. We can pop them on the mats.
Fitness instructor Carney Spink reckons she has one of the best jobs going around.
I absolutely love teaching these classes. First of all, you get big smiles from mums and babies. I occasionally get lots of cuddles as well.
Her clients range from newborns to 40-year-olds. And while some days she's competing to be heard...
Left arm, right leg. Hold at the top, squeeze and lift for 4, 3, 2...
This organised chaos is exactly what keeps them coming back for more.
We run a 45-minute class. Sometimes we get 20 minutes of work done. It's more important that, you know, we're all here for the same reason, just to give each other energy, finding new muscles that they haven't found for a little while.
And rediscovering some of those muscles takes some serious working out, with the option of bringing your baby on board in a harness or as a baby weight. Baby bonding and bonding with other mums carries as much weight as the workout itself.
It's really great to see all of these beautiful women taking time, making time for themselves, their workout, to get their bodies back, but not only that, to work on their mental health, even just to get out the house and meet other mums. It's really important in those first few months of baby's life.
Good, so think about that nice straight leg. Keep those hips nice and square.
I love to watch the growth of the mums coming from, you know, maybe a bit nervous coming into a class like this and not exercising, but helping them building up that confidence as well as their fitness too. And that might be the only time they come out for the day, and then having that 45 minutes to themselves.
Thigh stays still, you curl it in and out, in and out.
After having a baby, you obviously feel different. Everything's changed. Your whole world now revolves around a baby, so being able to come to class and do something for yourself is really important, and it's also good for him to be around other babies and all the music and noise and stuff as well.
Such a juggle with kids, because you obviously need to go somewhere where they're either looked after and you can exercise, or, you know, you feel welcome to bring them along, and not all places, especially fitness places, welcome that. So this is really good because you can literally bring them into the class. They're sort of crawling around. It's a little bit chaotic at times, but everyone understands because it's all mums. So we all sort of look after each other's babies and try and get a bit of a workout in at the same time. So it's good.
Makes it so much easier not having to worry about having a sitter or, you know, finding granny. Yeah, we can just bring Charlie along and he's happy if he's eating.
Option to bring that hand down if you need. Option to hold baby as well as your thighs.
All that exercise is hard work, and a short play, a snooze and some sustenance is just what the baby's ordered, except for this one.
Extend that leg out. You ready for a push-up? We're going to take a push-up all the way down, kiss the baby, go down, push.
And what better incentive to pull off the perfect push-up than a smooch with your bub.
And then we finish off with a nice little stretch, good drink, and then a play with the baby.
Now, Dr. Nick, I don't know if you've heard this before, but my nana used to say, if you pick your nose, your head will cave in, right? Have you ever heard this?
I have heard it, and let me tell you, your head will not cave in, but there is some research straight out of Griffith University which has shown that if you fiddle around with your nose, then nasty bugs can travel up the olfactory nerve into the brain and potentially increase your risk of Alzheimer's disease.
Yes, so why would you give a potentially life-changing disease a helping hand or finger by fishing around in there?
Well, the research in the Griffith was actually in mice, but they reckon that may apply to us humans too. So, yeah, be careful.
Also, a public service announcement. We can see you doing it at the traffic light, so please stop. You're not invisible.
Now, of course, our noses are great for filtering the air that we breathe, and most of us just breathe naturally through our noses. But there are times when nose is blocked or you're running, when you have to breathe through your mouth.
Well, conscious breathing is one of the hottest new wellness trends, so here's Hinesy for another bout of oxygen therapy with one of the world's best.
I'll just invite you to find an upright, not uptight position. Looks really good there, shoulders nice and at ease, hands can have any position. But just a gentle reminder, this isn't meditation. We're using the body here. What the mind does, not important. Okay? So you can gently close your eyes if that feels okay, and just find a breath in through the nose, and gently out through the nose.
What about people who struggle concentrating? How does breathing affect cognitive function?
Huge. Yeah, it has actually been shown that like a moment-to-moment shift in your breathing, and so what we're looking at is either breathing more shallow, right, or breathing faster, can actually impact the oxygenation of your brain. And just 1 or 2 breaths that are out of place will cut oxygenation to your brain by 2 to 5%. But it doesn't end there either. I was reading a research paper just the other day, and it was talking about how a lot of kids these days are essentially diagnosed with things like ADHD and ADD, and I'm sort of passionate about it myself because I got that diagnosis when I was a kid. But we never really dig deeper. And this paper was actually looking at those kids, and it was going, yeah, but how are they sleeping? Turns out a lot of them actually have sleep-disordered breathing. And if you don't breathe well at night, you don't breathe well during the day. And I mean, you can't live well, right?
Yeah.
It's that same story where the brain actually isn't able to fully recover, it isn't able to fully rest, it isn't able to fully sort of arrive at its natural state of deep rest, simply because the breathing's out of place. Now breath in for 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold it there for 5, 3, 4, 5, and let it go for 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now pause. Hold it there for 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Amazing. Now a breath in for 5 when you're ready. 2, 3, 4, 5, and out for 10, 2, 3.
Well, let's talk about insomnia, because you're talking about obviously how children sleep.
Yeah.
So many people struggle going to sleep. There's issues across the board.
Yeah.
Breathing techniques prior to bed, is that what we're talking?
I got something first, okay? This is scary. The statistics are scary, okay? There was a study from Scandinavia. It showed that 50% of men over the age of 50 now have sleep apnea. Half the population, right? Women after menopause, the numbers increase radically and they actually go higher than that. So if you don't learn to breathe properly, if you don't build a relationship with your breath in that way, you've got there's half the chance that you are going to develop sleep apnea, and this is no joke. It means that your body actually shuts down at night. Now the numbers go on and on. Snoring is at an all-time high, right? I was reading another thing which said that in America these days, 29% of homes are being built with an extra master bedroom. I was like, why? Because of snoring. They've just given up. They've just given up. They've just gone, you know what? That's it. We're reaching that point, and it is, if you don't learn to breathe properly, it will deteriorate over time, right? Particularly for men. And it's just such an issue. And so the solution is actually not that hard. This is where it becomes so interesting. There's some super simple fixes you can do, and it can become really complicated, but it doesn't necessarily have to improve your breathing at night. Now let's shift things up a little. We'll go in for 5, but we'll breathe really deep. Try and keep up with me. 4, 5, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Deeper in. You can do it. And breathing out. Might feel a little bit of lightheadedness. It's okay. Deep breath in all the way, all the way. And so even if you don't snore, which we can totally work on, even if you don't have sleep apnea, which is also something we can at least sort of correct to a certain extent, but you feel like you're doing many bathroom trips at night, or you feel like you wake up in the morning with a dry mouth, or you just feel like you're not getting a deep, good, solid night's sleep, there's actually a really simple cure, okay? I brought you a gift, and I hope that this is the strangest gift that someone's given you today.
I love presents.
It is mouth tape. Mouth tape.
There's going to be a lot of people who love the idea of this gift.
Of you taping your mouth?
Yeah, taping it shut.
Well, turns out that one of the simplest fixes to improve your breathing at night is just to shut your mouth, right? And start breathing through your nose again.
And this tape.
Oh yeah, it happens to so many people unconsciously. So this is actually a medical device, believe it or not. It's approved, but what it does is it seals your lips lightly shut, and it makes sure that as you go through the night and the different stages of sleep, you continue to breathe through your nose.
Wow.
Which is what you're supposed to do. So hold it for a few more seconds, and when you feel a strong need to breathe, you're just gonna take one big deep breath in. And a nice slow exhale. A couple of slow, natural breaths. Just let your body guide you.
Does anyone panic initially when they put that on? Is there a sense of...
The trick around that is to wear it a couple of times during the day. So I'm actually gonna get you to put it on now. It's got a nice little cross on there, and just gently seal it over your lips. Yeah. That's all there is to it. Now you'll notice it sits nice and comfortably. It's not too crazy, but this is actually helping your brain get used to the idea of you wearing the tape. So for most people, when they wear it for the first night, it actually feels like they sleep better. Some people wake up and the tape's like in their hair, right? And that's totally okay as well. We found that you got to stick with it. And it comes off nice and gently. Take care there.
I'll tell you what, I've never done an interview where the guest has told me to just stop talking.
You're welcome.
Yeah, anytime.
I'm going to give you a couple strips to try because we found you do it for about 7 nights. And you can just use any tape, by the way.
Yeah.
I recommend like a bit of micropore tape from the pharmacy.
Yeah.
Or there's specific brands and things out there. It's a thing. It's a trend. A lot of people are getting onto it. But essentially, all we're trying to do is make sure that you breathe less, low, and slow at night. And it will improve your sleeping already. So without even having to change anything, it's sort of like the lowest hanging fruit. You can start making improvements in your sleep.
Hines is going to bring us part 3 of that incredible breathwork masterclass in the coming weeks. Jack, I always felt like I had good lung capacity, and then I pull up at a random breath test, Jack, and I can't quite get it over the line.
Well, as long as you don't blow over, that's the first tip. But yeah, it's hard, isn't it? With me, I'm always like balloons at children's parties. I need the electric pump.
And you know what amazes me is the world of freediving. And can you believe the men's freediving world record is a stunning 24 minutes, 37 seconds underwater? It defies logic, that.
It's insane. And Johannes, who you just mentioned, well, he's actually a free diver as well, and he can stay underwater for 5 minutes, but it requires incredible mental training and stamina as well. It's definitely not something you could try at home.
Super impressive. Yeah, I love watching that. Up next, we catch up with the model high jumper who's bouncing back from adversity.
And how to get your kids interested in winter sports. That's coming up.
You're such an inspiring person and you've achieved so much over such a range of fields. So whether it be high jump, presenting, modelling, the list goes on. And you said that by overcoming a brain tumour whilst training for the London Olympics really opened your eyes like nothing else could.
So I was 19 when this happened. You know, I was a baby. I'm not naive, but I was very much like, nothing goes wrong, nothing bad will happen, like,
every 19-year-old.
Yeah. It changed my life in just so many different ways, but I found a very big thing. I was always conditioned, even with modelling, training, you're always focused on the next thing. It's always like you train, you work, and then you get to where you want to be, and then you drop that onto the next thing. You never kind of like appreciate the journey and the build to getting to where you want to go. So I really sort of like going through that, I very much learnt to stop and just be like, okay, I want this, I have to get to here, but I have all this to do too.
Yes.
Because even with recovery, I was like, I want to be back jumping, I want to be modelling, I want to be doing this. And I was like, Amy, you need to learn to walk again. Like, so it was very much appreciating every little step I took along the way.
Being a model, you are exposed to a lot of professional makeup artists and getting your makeup done all the time. What's the biggest thing you've learned from us?
I think I've learned the most would have to be really enhancing what you already have. I think it's never about like covering your face up. It's not about hiding things. And I think less is always more with makeup.
Yes.
I've discovered. And I really like it because sometimes I find even when I put on too much makeup, I'm like, oh my God, who am I?
So what I'm doing, I'm just using a cream bronzer. You can use even a cream concealer and just going anywhere that you want to push back. Creams are really easy, and I think the area that you do is around the halo of the head and under that cheekbone. But the way you do it with your brush affects the outcome as well. So if you want it to be heavier, you just kind of buff like this. But if you want it to be a little bit more blended, you can press it and it will blend in.
I just use my fingers.
Well, that's okay as well. It just, application really is a big part of makeup, so...
That's why you do my makeup.
That's it. What does beauty mean to you?
Beauty to me, I think, It's not just like the physical appearance. Like beauty to me is very much watching someone go out and achieve their goal. It's like how you treat people. It's your aura. It's, you know, even with like an individual sport, I find some people forget that it is still collaborative.
Yes.
Like you've got your physios, your trainers, your chiros, like there is such a big collaboration. It's like, it's always good to just be a nice person.
It's not just how we probably met, which was about adding makeup and your features on your face. It's like, I truly know you're beautiful because of who you are inside. So I love that answer.
Thank you.
Dr. Nick, in the country, quad bikes really are a part of life. They're tough, they're versatile, but nowadays they're also a bit of a leisure activity.
Well, yeah, and I've had a go on one, Jack, and it was so much fun, but they actually make us doctors cringe because they can be very dangerous, particularly when it comes to the kids.
And about 2 years ago, there was a crackdown on all new and used quad bikes.
Yeah, so there are now some new safety standards designed particularly to prevent the risks of fatal rollovers.
You still need to wear a helmet and always never let a child operate one, and it's a call that's being echoed by Dr. Warwick Teague from the Royal Children's Hospital.
So when quad bikes were first introduced, they were embraced with an enthusiasm, and very much within that, maybe even a driving force of that enthusiasm, was a perception that a four-wheeled quad bike would offer a safer form of transport. Unfortunately, that is not what we have now come to understand about quad bikes. In the last 12 years, our information is that 181 Australians have died as the result of a quad bike crash. Frighteningly, 1 in 7 of those Australians, that's 25 Australians, were children under the age of 16. Quad bikes are not an all-terrain vehicle. They're pretty much only suitable for one kind of terrain, which is a flat surface. A 10-centimetre bump in a paddock is sufficient to roll a quad bike when the quad bike is moving at only moderate speed. And when a quad bike rolls, the rider and the quad bike often roll together without separation, and the quad bike crushes or comes to rest on top of the rider. Australian law now requires that new quad bikes or quad bikes being sold have a roll bar fitted to protect the rider from a rollover event. Unfortunately, there are many quad bikes still in use that are not being sold, and it's up to then, to the user, to make the decision to increase the safety of themselves and others that might use their quad bike with this rollover protection device. People will often ask me, Warwick, what is it about you and quad bikes? And this is not about Warwick Teague and quad bikes. This is a concern shared by many people. But I have been personally impacted by the way in which quad bike injuries take and damage lives. I've had to care for children who have been held against the heat of a quad bike for so long that their skin has become burned and charred. I've had to manipulate bodies that you can feel the bones moving beneath your hands because of the broken bones that are there. Now, that has an impact on me, but that impact is of no scale compared with the impact it's having on that child and their families. It's not enough to put a helmet on, although putting a helmet on will be essential for anyone to safely use a quad bike. The only fair response is to protect children from this toxic danger to their life and their well-being by not letting children get on a quad at all at any time.
Well, winter is here, which means netball, footy, and of course all of the fun of the snow. So, Dr. Nick, what kind of sports injuries do we see at this time of year?
Yeah, it's a good question, Joe. And actually, whether it's skiing, whether it's netball, whether it's footy, knees are probably top of the list, closely followed by what we call the fush.
What is fush?
The fall on outstretched hand.
Oh, that
Ow.
sounds nasty. Well, figures show that sports injuries from the snow actually is 5 in 1,000. That's pretty high odds.
Yeah, and top of the list are fractures, followed closely by dislocations and soft tissue injuries. So if you're heading out to the snow, do please take care.
Well, talking about caring for ourselves and others, we reveal the hotline that is monitoring the food that is served in aged care right after this.
The pandemic was a strange time for so many reasons. But one surprising outcome was an increase in the number of people with dry eye disease, most likely caused by increased screen time. A 2022 report by Optometry Australia estimates that over 85% of Australians have experienced dry eye at some stage, with evaporative dry eye the most common among sufferers. Evaporative dry eye is caused by a disruption to the outer lipid layer of the tear film, which results in excessive tear evaporation. Staring at a screen for a long time can reduce your blink rate by 50%, causing your tears to evaporate more rapidly. That leaves you with a feeling of dry, dehydrated eyes. Other symptoms can include blurred vision, stinging, burning or tired eyes, and, don't let the name fool you, watery eyes as well. The good news is that there are eye drops which may provide effective relief. But not many eye drops are specifically designed to help with evaporative dry eye. And if you need to use your eye drops more than 3 or 4 times a day, you may be using the wrong type of drop. Instead, look for an eye drop solution that supports the lipid layer by lubricating the surface of the eye and stabilising the outer tear film to reduce evaporation and to relieve and protect your eyes. It should also be a preservative-free eye drop to lessen the chance of irritation to already irritated eyes. Evaporative dry eye is a condition on the rise, but with the right type of eye drop, you can effectively relieve the symptoms of dry eye to avoid prolonged discomfort.
Today on the House of Wellness Jack, it's all about community, and we've got great care for those that are closest to us. We all do that, especially when we're living apart.
Yeah, but when it comes to aged care, there's real concern about the quality of food that's being dished up to our loved ones.
Yeah, nutrition was a big outcome and focus of the recent Royal Commission into aged care, and part of that has been a hotline that is open to all residents who can complain if providers serve up subpar meals.
And Darcy, there's going to be random spot checks and menu assessments from nutritionists, so you'd hope that things would improve pretty quickly.
I'd like to think that we would serve nutritious meals
Absolutely.
to our elderly would be a great thing. One of the things I do love about food, though, Jack, is it is something that brings us all together.
Indeed, but what do you do when you're asked to bring a plate? I've got a rocky road for you now. Here's Hines and Zoe.
Zoe, one of my fondest childhood memories would have to be big family and friend get-togethers. I think that's where my love of cooking came from, that whole entertaining factor.
But for some people, the thought of someone just popping over for lunch or having to bring a plate fills them with absolute fear.
Which is why we are here. We're getting into the community spirit and we're going to show you some quick recipes that you can whip together and en masse if need be.
Be prepared to be the favourite in the family or the #1 in the neighbourhood.
Those 2 titles are literally mine for the taking because I am making rocky road bites. Everybody loves dessert and they're so easy. All you need to do is melt chocolate, decorate and refrigerate. They're a great one for the kids too.
My meal is more about preparing a meal for the unexpected visitor. It's actually a pea pesto with broccoli and leftover chicken.
Now, we're going to sound like broken records here, but I'm going to say it again. Quick and easy food doesn't have to equal unhealthy. I'm getting important minerals like iron and magnesium from the dark chocolate.
And don't forget the blueberries. They are a real superfood.
And they're really low in calories, but packed with nutrients like antioxidants and vitamin C. And did you know, Zoe, they're one of the only truly blue foods in the world?
Oh my God, healthy and beautiful. But enough of your dessert. The health hero of my dish is actually broccoli. It's rich in vitamin C for supporting immune system and skin health.
I can see an extra immune-boosting ingredient in there, Zoe. Garlic. You sure that's a good idea in a group environment? I mean, talk about garlic breath.
You know what? All for one and one for all, I say, Lukey. But research shows by eating things like raw apples, drinking lemon juice and drinking green tea acts like a natural deodoriser and gets rid of that garlicky breath.
Fair call and well worth it for the antiseptic, antibacterial and antifungal properties of garlic.
But you know what I really love about this recipe is it's so easy to swap things out. If you don't want to have the pasta, you can try things like edamame noodles. If you don't want to eat chicken as the protein, I love also adding things like beans and nuts as a substitute.
Such a great idea, Zoe. How often do we open the fridge or pantry and look in there and think, what am I going to make with all this? So it's a really good recipe to have on hand.
I could say the same about your recipe, Lukey, and I have a funny feeling that we're going to be able to bribe our neighbours with these recipes. Garbage, sweeping, there's a lot of chores I need around my house.
Actually, my toilet needs cleaning. How many rocky road bites would it take to get my toot cleaned?
Well, we can't do a community-themed version of the House of Wellness without mentioning all of our love of animals.
Oh, well, you're talking dogs, aren't you, Darcy?
Yes.
We all
Yes.
love our dogs here at the House of Wellness, and it is so awesome the way our dogs connect us with our community. We're out walking, we're meeting people, although I have to admit, I remember the names of the dogs much more than I do the owners.
Fair, fair. And this is a great little story too. In the US, retired Aussie greyhounds are finding new homes with former police officers.
Yeah, and this is really important, Jack, because policing can have a lot of traumatising experiences with mental health risks. And I've seen a few police over the years with PTSD, and now they're bringing animal therapy to the police, which is great.
And greyhounds are actually really amazing because despite what you might think, they're actually quite lazy and they just love to be pampered. And I think after their racing life, it's time to spoil them.
I love the rescue greyhounds,
Yeah.
Jack. I could see one in my future, I reckon, for sure. Joe, well, that's all we've got time for today on the House of Wellness, but the build-up is on to the FIFA Women's World Cup, and this Sunday, Sydney Harbour Bridge is being turned into a festival of football to celebrate 25 days to go until kick-off.
Plus, Wanderlust True North is almost here. Leaders from music, mindfulness, yoga and food are hitting Melbourne, Sydney and the Gold Coast in September with tickets on sale now.
And you can check out the House of Wellness lift out for a winter reset.
Thanks as always to our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you next time.